I started because I'm from Elgin originally, and it was so boring in the suburbs that I bet my cousin one day that I could get 500 people to go to a party at my house. In order for me to do the party, my mom, she had these two conditions. One was I had to write a business plan. And number two, because she was like, this kid's never gonna write a business plan. This way I don't have to give him a party, right? I can act like I'm participating, and being a good parent, right? Exactly, right? So nobody's not gonna do that. And the second one, which was more interesting, was that
real life, real talk right now.
94, summer of 94, I was able to successfully sync the beats the very first time, and I'll never forget the feeling, because you're trying to mix and it's like boom, 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 like I got it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's so cool. I remember that.
And for Mikasa Holiday, when we were kind of building that, it was kind of envisioning like how could you have access to that energy, not miss a beat throughout your life. Human connection is everything, right? This is what 3 Degrees was all about, right? Human connection. So, but now the question is, based on, all the different generations of folks who are participating in music and club culture, what experience do they actually want? And there are certain commonalities that can bridge all of those generations. Club culture completely changed when we were going to Shelter. Then that stopped, right? And
Shelter closed,
Kaboom closed, all these closed, and the newer generation didn't have the same experience. So it was kind of like, okay, what's next? And then for me, it kind of I started to look. My sister always going on trips, and I started thinking like, okay, well, what's a better experience?
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Mic Talk. I am your host, Michael Gutierrez, and I'm so excited about this episode. You know why? Because I'm introducing to you an old friend of mine, and you're gonna know him if you know house music and you're celebrating 40 years of Chicago house music. No need to introduce my man right here, but I'm gonna do it. Julius, the Mad Thinker Spates. What's up, Julius? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Let me calm down, because I get a little amped when I'm around you.
I'm used to it. It's so good to be around your energy, though, bro.
Man, this is amazing. Thank you for being here. Thanks for taking the time. Julius, you have done so much, and we got to cover a little bit of the past, man, because this is actually the very first time we've actually seen each other in, I would say, 20 years?
Gosh, man, it's wow. I mean, yeah, I guess it's that long. It's been that long.
It's been that long.
15, 20 years.
15, 20 years.
That's so crazy. Just because we spent so much time together when we used to work together. And I think we've stayed in touch. So it feels like, I think when you meet someone and then you have that kind of energy, it picks back up. So it doesn't seem that long.
That's good.
And you haven't really aged.
Dude, what are you doing with your skin? Like, it's amazing. Do you have like a skincare routine?
I think it's music, man.
Bro, you drink a lot of water.
Music. I do drink water.
We gotta introduce you to some bourbon a little bit. Nah. Julius, we used to work together, guys, at Bally Total Fitness. I mean, shout out to Bally's, because I feel like when I started working at Bally's, I learned what it was to have a job.
Yeah.
Like to deal with customers and clients and managers, and the training that we got from them was exceptional, right?
Yeah, and I think we had a good crew of people, so many different personalities, and I think I was inspired by just being around a group of people, and and then working with all the guests that were coming in. So many funny stories through the years of Bally.
Actually, do you remember Brandon? He used to come in every day at River City, Swole. He was a politician.
Yeah.
Well, he follows me on Facebook. He's cool. He says hi to me.
Oh, wow. Okay, wow.
He popped us, hey, Mike. I was like, hey, you look familiar. River City. Oh, snap. Yeah, so it was cool to catch up with him a little bit. But, man, Julius, you have been part of Chicago house music since you knew how to put a vinyl record on your 1200, right? And I know we talked about a lot of that in Bally's, and I think that was the energy that we caught with one another about music and whatnot.
Music, yeah.
3 Degrees. I want you to tell the world that doesn't know about 3 Degrees of 3 Degrees, because that's what made us family.
Yeah, totally. Well, 3 Degrees was a group of us, about 7 of us, who got together, and we wanted something more for Chicago. We wanted to bring everybody together. And one of the guys decided to call this 3 Degrees. And the concept was based on 6 degrees of separation, where everyone in the world is supposedly connected by 6 people. And we all figured, well, if the world's connected by 6, then maybe like-minded individuals were connected maybe by 3. So it was a free party each week, but it was members only. So you had to have a friend invite you, right? And we gave out member cards. And the experience was you were the friend, a friend of a friend, or a friend of a friend's friend when you got in, so that everybody would stay connected. And then we would bring in surprise DJs, send out a calendar to bring the community together. And people started going, and they'd be like, come to the party and be like, yo, how did you know about this? And be like, oh, my friend Mike who? Mike Gutierrez? Wait, Mike Gutierrez? Wait, does he work at Bally? And you're like, yeah, Mike's my boy. Oh, that's my boy. And so it just started with like 7 of us partners, 20 friends of friends, and in a year and a half it was like 10,000 friends of friends around the world.
Crazy. And I was part of that part when it was at birth, and when it started growing, and it was every Wednesday night. Excuse me, and it would pack. Like, it would be packed. People from all walks of life would be there. I'm talking every kind of skin color and race and background. It was amazing. And I think that's what made it so much fun, because you walked into a place and everybody really did feel like family. It's like, oh, and there's this guy, and there's this. And what's crazy is that the bartender and one of the security guys, weren't they like on some reality show? Wasn't she on a reality show?
Yeah, one of the girls, Nicole, she was on a reality show.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, it's I don't know what we really just wanted to bring everyone together like we normally would. But what we found was that it became that kind of neutral place that broke through all of the polarization that was having all the cliques and everything. It was kind of like, it was called 3 Degrees Ultra Lounge, because it was like not only the ultimate experience, but it was a place where it didn't matter like what you did. You could go there and just be chill, right? And
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And then once we started doing, it was like more and more more space became available. You could see the more decorations, and that's when me and Julio had our VIP section.
Yeah.
So I found Julio dancing on the speaker. I was like, wait, let's go. We gotta go. Oh,
I think, I think it was cool just to see people evolve through their lives, right? Because after you produce events for a while, you start to see, first you start going every week, then like every month. Then life kind of happens.
Get married.
Yeah, get married. And then it's like, once a year, somebody's birthday.
Right.
And then it's like you run into them. They're like, man, you still doing that? And you're like, dope.
And which leads me to the next question is like, it wasn't enough for you. So I feel like as a creator, right, it's like, okay, you do this. It's like, I love Mike Talk. I love having this podcast. But eventually, it's not going to be enough. As creators, the ceiling ggets higher and higher and higher, right?
Yeah.
And so for you, you were like, why don't we go to Mexico? Tell us about how that evolved.
Yeah, so
because you texted me one day like, "Yo, Mike, we're all going to Mexico. You in?" I'm like,
yeah. So it's kind of a crazy story, because I have to kind of go back to the way I started. I started because I'm from Elgin originally, right, which is about 45 minutes west of the city, obviously. And it was so boring in the suburbs that I bet my cousin one day that I could get 500 people to go to a party at my house, right? So it wasn't so much about the 500 people, like the number. It was more about in our town of like at the time 64 to 72,000 people, there had to be at least 500 people who were as bored as I was, right? So it's like couple colleges, seniors, high school. I'm like, I bet you I can get at least 500 people to go, right? Because we were doing the same thing all the time. Well, in order for me to do the party, my mom, she had these two conditions. One was I had to write a business plan. And number two, because she was like, this kid's never going to write a business plan. This way I don't have to give him a party, right? I can act like I'm participating, and being a good parent, right? Exactly. Right. So no, he's not going to do that. And the second one, was more interesting, was that if I were to make any money, I had to give my sister spending money to go to Mexico for her senior trip. Okay. Oh. So I wrote a business plan that my mom never thought I was going to write. And my mom was like, God, I got to let this kid throw this party, right? So we got about 600 people to go. I was able to give my sister $500. And essentially, my sister goes on that trip eventually, has a time of her life, and then comes back and convinces that company to hire her on as the youngest student organizer in that company's history at the time. So she goes basically 20 plus years of travel and hospitality. I start to throw more parties, along the way start to disagree with the order of songs that our DJ's playing. Because I always I used to love the music, but I used to love the dance, right? And I would always be on the dance floor like thinking, oh man, if you would have played this song instead of that song, man, I bet you this would have happened, right? So I started playing, got hooked to DJing. I'll never forget it. It's just 90, so 93, I started messing around, asking them all the time, can I try? 94, summer of 94, I was able to successfully sync the beats the very first time. And I'll never forget the feeling, because, you're trying to mix and it's boom, boom, boom. I'm like, I got it. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's so cool. I remember that.
So, so then of course, through that time, that's 94, go on 99 is when 3 Degrees started. So we started 3 Degrees and created this Ultra Lounge, and then it started to grow and people started to come. And all of a sudden be like, hey, you guys should do this in San Francisco. So we started doing these regional events, San Francisco, New York, DC, started going there. Then it was like, oh, we got to do a bigger party on the holidays. Okay, what are we going to call it? One of the guys was like, some call it house, we call it home, right?
Loved it.
So those were the big parties, right? And then there was one more event that we never got to, and that was called the Global House Project. And the idea was to take that community to an exotic location, right? And before 3 Degrees, actually one of our partners, Jeremiah Serafin, who lives in Oakland now, he did that kind of experience to Amsterdam, but there wasn't that many people that went. And I remember him doing it, telling me about it. And before we started 3 Degrees, I told him, I was like, man, this is a really cool idea, but I think that you'd have to create a community first and then try that. It would work. So we went through all of the 3 Degrees. Meanwhile, remember my sister, she got hired by that company, right? Oh. And she kept doing it in Cancun year after year after year. And then what happened, she was all of a sudden, Cancun, there was Playa del Carmen, which was 45 minutes south of there. Sure. And eventually when she started asking me like, hey, maybe you should consider doing something maybe we should consider doing something like this. I was like, no. But then, of course, after 9/11 and the digital revolution kind of started, culture started to change, disposable income, disappeared. So club culture completely changed. Yeah. When we were going to shelter, you mentioned directions or decorations. Sure. We would go there. There'd always be different themes, right? Sure. However, then that stopped, right? And shelter closed, kaboom, closed, all these closed. And the newer generation didn't have the same experience. So it was kind of like, okay, what's next? And then for me, it kind of I started to look, my sister always going on trips. And I started thinking like, okay, well, what's a better experience? Outdoor, something, right? And she kept hitting me with maybe we should go to Hawaii, maybe we should go to Puerto Rico, maybe she was saying every place but. And then I started touring and I ran into a guy and he was like, hey, have you ever been to Playa del Carmen? Actually, before that, there's a Thievery Corporation. There's a guy that worked with them. His name's Frank Oral. And I would run into him. We were friends. He was a 3 Degrees member. And he'd always say, Julius, have you ever been to Playa del Carmen? I'm like, no. He's like, man, I'm telling you, they would love your sound, man. I'm telling you. I'm like, where is it? He's like, it's in Mexico, right? So he kept saying that. And then I started meeting people. And I ended up meeting someone at a festival. And he was like, we started talking and I mentioned something about Playa del Carmen. He was like, oh yeah, I play there. I know the president of the clubbing district. And I was like, I didn't even know there was presidents of clubbing districts, right? Sad. So yeah, that's kind of what happened. And so 3 Degrees we hit the peak, and then we still committed as friends to continue like having events, but not as serious, but just to maintain our friendship. And at that time, looking at kind of the state of the industry, and my sister, we were just like, well, let's try something else. And I'm like, well, what do you want to call it? She's like, I know what we should call it. Mikasa Holiday. Mikasa Holiday. Like, or she said Mikasa. She said Mikasa Sukasa. And she's like, my house is your house. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I like that. And I said, but there has to be something else. And I started, I had just gotten back from a gig in London. And I started reflecting on like all the different trips around the world. And I had never heard anyone tell me from around the world say they were not going to go on holiday. Everyone, it was like holiday was mandatory. Right. And in the US, it was kind of like, I can't afford to go on vacation, right? So it was like my house holiday. It is like almost like our upbringing, which was like very Latin upbringing, because my friends lived in all Mexican but Puerto Rican, and my cousins did live in all Mexican Puerto Rican. It was like you get inside houses like, what do you need something to eat? What do you need? I can get anything for you. Like my house is your house, right? And then the holiday aspect was like, it was almost like a reminder that taking time for yourself is mandatory. Yeah. So we created Mikasa Holiday and we produced one event in Playa del Carmen in 2009. And that one experience evolved into a travel and music community where we produce in Costa Rica, Cuba, US, Mexico.
Yeah, so Mexico was just a starting point.
That was a starting point. And then it was like Costa Rica, started going to Costa Rica. We're doing stuff in Miami and San Francisco already, stuff like that. But then it was like Costa Rica, then it was like Cuba, then it was St. Lucia. And so, so we did Mexico for 15 years. It was like the annual holiday, which was eventually that concept evolved into kind of, it's like your house holiday. So it's like whatever is amazing in your life, whatever you want to celebrate, right? Nice. It's your own kind of customized personal celebration. And then we just create the infrastructure so you could just easily walk into that. And a lot of that was based on the experiences of like 3 Degrees. And how it started. Yeah, because in 3 Degrees, it was kind of what you're saying. It's like you could go there and just feel comfortable, whether you were super high end, because I mean, you guys were traders at time, like we had that whole community. We had the students, the dancers, the business owners, every single person in that. And so, and for Mikasa Holiday, when we were kind of building that, it was kind of envisioning like, how could you have access to that energy, not miss a beat throughout your life, have not even think about it, and just walk in and just have access, but be able to experience this new event at the exact stage you are, right? So maybe you weren't going out all the time, right? Yeah. But you could have access to that, but still be in as a parent or whatnot.
Still be part of that.
Yeah, exactly. And then that evolved into, first it was us. Then it was people like bringing their family, their parents. Yeah. Then people started bringing their kids. And so, yeah. So now it's like
the family.
Yeah, it was, and that was cool because, in the industry, as you're coming up, it's like drugs, all types of and to me, your music, that's going to be an element. Sure. But I never liked when people would be in the industry and then all of a sudden blame their kind of bad habits on the music, right? It would be like, I can't control myself.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh no, I'm not with that music stuff anymore.
I get it.
And because I was never a drinker, so I was like more like really into the music, and I didn't think that was fair. So.
Yeah. And I think I run into a lot of that sometimes, right? It's like, well, I don't listen to that kind of music anymore. And I can respect somebody that says that. For me, even when I became a believer, I did stop listening to some kind of hip hop because I think for me, it just took me back to the crazier days. Because remember, you were all a DJ, and I think for us, it was a little bit, we were, it ain't real life, real talk right now. But all that to say, it's like, when I knew that I was at peace, man, and I felt like I was like freedom, and I went back, right? And it didn't take me back to the life I used to live.
Yeah.
It was more like I had to kind of like, and it wasn't, and it had nothing to do with the music. It was me.
Yeah.
Right. And so at the end of the day, I could see someone's point like that, but for me today, it's like, yeah, I'll go back and rock some Nas. I go back to Eric B. Rakim. I go back to NWA. It doesn't mean I'm going to go and jump in my old car and I'll just, do the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's not that anymore. I think we all mature, and but some people, I guess, don't turn the corner to mature.
Or it's hard. Or it's hard. Yeah, or it's hard. It's like I think sometimes there can be this like subconscious gateway back.
Correct.
And so if you realize maybe you don't have that discipline, I mean, some of it I understand. I mean, we mature, and so like the message becomes more and more important as we have kids, and
exactly.
So that makes sense.
But I think for us though, for house music, I mean, I think even when I hear your music now, it's like it takes me back to the Zentra days. It takes me back to having fun. It doesn't take me physically back to Crowbar and be like, you guys open? I need to get in. Let me in. No, I need that cage right there. That cage that Dennis Rodman was in. I was like, whoa. Is that the worm? Oh, good old days.
That's funny, man.
But we used to go to Crowbar. Like, whatever happened to Crowbar in them places? They're down, right?
Yeah, again, man, club culture changed, and I think remember when music became digital, there was like there was a huge impact, because part of going to buying music was not just about buying the music. It was going to the store and who was at the store. So it was that community that was being created. And so when you kind of took that part of it out, and now you're looking at digital names, and then there's the torrent sites where you can download it. So now your attachment to the culture is also diminished.
That's so
right.
Deep.
So now if the culture is kind of diminished, and then remember after 9/11, what happened was, any type of major kind of tragedy or whatnot, or situation, everyone reprioritizes what's important. So all those big venues who were making you wait in line for, God knows how long.
Except us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then charging you $40 and all that type of stuff. After 9/11, it was just like, forget it. And then you have a next generation who's like, oh, no, I'm not doing that. And so then what happened was, venues then were like, okay, it's free and we'll give you 2 beers, right? And it switched, right? And so it was like, what can you give me to go to your place? Which then it also had an impact on how program directors and talent buyers were deciding to bring in their talent. They no longer wanted to decorate as much as they did before. They no longer wanted to take chance on new talent. It was like, let me wear out the same talent over and over and over again. And so the experience, even if it was unintentional, the experience for people who were coming in is like, why am I going to go to this place again? Like, it's like, whatever. And then why do I want to be in the club? You know what I'm saying? So people started looking out. So there's a huge impact on all of that.
So how does that look today for you? Because you're still doing it. I mean, now you type up your name, bro, and it's worldwide. So what are you doing?
Well,
considering that the club culture is diminished, and how does Julius now, I don't want to say how does Julius draw the crowd, because you just put your name on a flyer, but how does that look nowadays?
Well, now it's really about the same thing as it was before, but articulated a little bit different, which comes down to experience. So it's really curating or organizing or creating experiences and looking at it like that and taking into consideration kind of what's happening in the world. We know that, especially with technology, human connection is everything, right? This is what 3 Degrees was all about, right? Human connection. So, but now the question is, based on, all the different generations of folks who are participating in music and club culture, what experience do they actually want? And there are certain commonalities that can bridge all of those generations, like outdoor is one of them, right? So you might have like 90% of the people or 85% of the people love going to a place where the weather is nice, sunny, right? Yeah. You get those 15% that are like, nah, I hate the heat, right? and maybe it's not going to be them, right? Maybe they have to get dragged by their friend, but things like that. And then even locally, right? So that's why you see this kind of emergence of outdoor day events, whatnot, right? Yeah. And outdoor is less expensive for, so less money, people, I can dress the way I want, and then whatever your style is, it doesn't matter because it's not like you're going to have to wear a tuxedo outside, right? It's like
that was me back in the day with the John Gotti suit.
Exactly. So it's really just looking at the experiences, and I love it now because the music has evolved so many different times. Where there was a kind of a time where there was like, when I was coming up, there was like techno and house is all kind of in disco. It was all mixed in together, right? It was all blended in together. Then through the kind of desire to, I guess, make a name for yourself as a producer, then you started having all these kind of niche genres, right? And then there was periods of times where like house and progressive house were completely different, right? And then now all that stuff is kind of blended in together with Afro, with every commercial. It's all kind of blended together. So now you can play some maybe commercial-ish kind of songs in an underground set, and it all works because the generations coming up now, the way that they're listening to music and the way that they're merging in their innovation, they're merging all that stuff together, right? And so
you're creating a program for the night. You're already say, okay, well, what would have been a cardinal sin 10 years ago?
It's no longer. It's not like that anymore, right? It's not like that anymore. And I mean, now I think that there are DJ wise, like there's different, styles. My approach to DJing is about basically providing a soundtrack for the environment, and in that environment, people are just one important aspect of that environment, but it's what are the colors, what are the lights, where is it outdoor, indoor, is it wood dance floor, is it not a wood dance floor, right? Like, so it's all of that. And then I kind of provide a soundtrack for that because trying to figure out what everybody, I can't do that. I can't do that.
Never thought that when you're a DJ, you walk around and look at the lights and is it going to be sunny and how's the weather? I never thought of that. I just thought I'm going to make my program. It's going to be 16, 17 minutes long.
Yeah. No, because you know what the thing is? I mean, every DJ.
Now it's.
Yeah, and I produce events too, right? And it goes back to curating those experiences, right? So, and within that night, it's again like, so I may be playing the role of DJ, but what happens is I can't exclude all of the other information that I'm observing, right? So all of that, when I walk in, I can't not be who I am, right? So I'm already taking all that in, but my role for the night is to play the music.
And what's really dope too is like you already have an understanding of what it is to be that audience. Well, not an understanding, you know what it is to be that audience. But not only that, you know what it is to be an audience that goes to that place for that experience.
Yeah.
So if you know that audience member is looking for that experience when it comes to music and whatever level they come in, you gotta. It's crazy because your set paints this movie for them as they're having a great time, and I didn't even think about that until now. As you're breaking it down.
Yeah, it's funny because that's pretty dope. And I mean, when you're curating events, the other thing is, so there's all these different pockets of people, and then there's also what possibilities of things that they may be going through in their lives, right? And then there's a whole nother question of like what role does music play in each other's life, right? So we know someone could walk into a bar and had just gotten into a fight. Someone could walk into a bar and be looking to hook up with somebody that night, right? It could be all these different things, right? And so and once you kind of acknowledge that that's it, and wherever you come from, everything's all, that's what house music preps you to just accept it all, right? And then it's just like, now I'm like creating a scene, right? And music is a part of that scene. So that's kind of how
now it makes sense why your DJ name is the Mad Thinker. No, that real talk. Like we always knew that you were like deep thinker because you were a creator, but it continues to evolve into even more like now you're adding science to it, bro.
Yeah. I mean, you know, with any art, you're always kind of looking at what it is. Now now as a DJ though, here's the other part. It's kind of crazy. Because you can fall into that trap of because you never have the desire to want to make people move, right? Or there's the times in your career where where it's just like, oh man, I know this song is gonna do so and so. You like predict it in the middle of your set, and then people don't have the reaction, and then like, you're like, oh my god, you go into panic mode, right? Yeah. So that can happen through years. So I had to create like almost like a DJ game that keeps me locked in, and it basically is there's 3 rules, right? And it kind of gets your focus. And number 1 is how much I love the song that I just played. That's number 1. Okay, like damn, oh my god, man, I love that song. That song is so dope. Then number 2 is how much I love the song that I'm playing right now. Oh my god, damn, this song is so dope. Oh my god, I love this song so much, right? And number 3 is how much I love the song that I'm about to play. Oh my god, this song I'm about to play. Oh my god, I love the song. And that's it. That locks in my focus, because your mind's gonna go. Yeah. I already have the experience to take in all that, but I have to zone in because that's the way that I'm most likely to become one with the music, which is becoming, based on how much I love whatever I'm doing.
Man, bro, you spitting some knowledge.
It's like, dude, it's just thinking about like, you have an art and you just love it. That's it,
So for the 40-year anniversary, what did you do? And I know there's 2 months left for the year. Is there anything special for
40 years of house music, which is, it's so crazy to wrap my head around that.
That's crazy.
Just thinking about that. And then this is so 94 to 2024 is my 30th year of DJ this year, right? Which is, I don't know. This year, it was a crazy transition because we did 15 years of our signature event in Mexico, and then this year was the first year that we took our larger group to Cuba for the first time, right? To give a completely different experience. So this year, to me, for 40 years was, it really is kind of this, introspection and retrospection of how I started, how much I love bringing people together, and the music that I love. And then it's just kind of like this, it's almost like a constant celebration and reminder that through music, that you can make an incredible impact regardless of what is going on in life.
Music brings people together, man. I love music. And as you get older, especially as a DJ, I'm sure you like a lot of genres, right?
I do.
I find myself listening to country now.
Yeah, I mean, I love
like some country.
I'm still very.
You gotta throw some Morgan Wallen in there, bro.
I mean,
something new, bro. Something stronger than I'm used to.
I love music. I love making music. In the end, I think I'm still super curious as all the different ways that music, like what music does for different people. Yeah. I'm still so curious about that. And I think that also keeps me going because, I'll see someone just like tell me like, oh, I have to have this music in my life, and they'll be singing the lyrics or whatever. And I'm just so interested in like what's literally happening to them. And I think until I die, I'll be curious about that.
What's happening, what they're thinking. Yeah. I listen to because if I want to get into if I'm writing a scene or whatever, I'll have to put on a certain kind of music to take me to that scene. I love smooth jazz, like some Paul Hardcastle or some Boney James, right? I love some saxophone. And if I'm writing like a scene where there's like some dialogue where a man and a woman or romance dialogue, I'm gonna throw something smooth jazz in there, man, because I have to find those little cute sayings and stuff like that that keep the audience interested in that dialogue, right? So certain kind of music. So there's this little scene I'm writing about an 8-year-old boy in a Humboldt Park community, and he's walking into a liquor store, and the music in the background is going to be some old salsa for me there, because that's what they would listen to.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about the kid walking down the aisle, and he's really listening to what the bosses are saying in the back room, and they don't sound like they're talking about milk and eggs. You know what I mean? And so now the kid's getting closer and closer to the, and then the music's getting louder and louder. So that music has to grab me to write that every line, and it's going to probably be some old, Hector Lavoe or some old, old school.
I love that.
Salsa.
I have a similar process. So when I produce music, I grew up playing the trumpet, and I was in the marching band.
Wow.
But I really was like your average teenage kid where my mom made me do it, and I was like kind of tapped out, but learned it.
Yeah.
However, so now when I make music, I have to create a scene, and then that will help me understand what sounds to choose for. So it's like, it's almost the opposite. Exactly. Yeah. It's almost the exact opposite, right?
Crazy.
So especially for instrumentals or whatnot, like even the album I produced back in 2017 is called Perspective. So I had already made different songs, but part of it was like, okay, what's going to be the name of the album? And I said, okay, well, what distinguishes me from everything else out there? Because one of my mentors at that time, Lil Lewis, was like, you need to make something that only Julius and Matt Thinker could make, right? And he's like, I need you to think about that. And I was like, okay, well, it's going to be the title. What is it?
Chicago name right there.
Yeah, exactly, Lil Lewis. So it's like, what is it that I offer the world? And what it was is my perspective. Okay, and so then it was asking myself, okay, so what about my perspective? What is it? What do you think about life? What's your perspective of life? To me, it was like, okay, that there's these major things that will happen in life, but the idea is that you don't get like sucked into that so much, because then you'll miss the boat. Like you can acknowledge it, but you'll miss the opportunities if you get sucked into the tragedy or so on and so whatnot, right? So then the question was, okay, well, what kind of story represents that, right? And so the story I come up for the album was thinking about like intense feelings or whatnot, right? Sure. So I was like, okay, and I grew up in a band, so it was like classic. I have that kind of background. It was like, okay, young girl, prodigy, violinist, right? Loses her family in a fire. Okay, and then what happens is like, okay, she's got a friend. Her friend convinces her after she loses she stops playing, and her friend finally convinces her to perform again, right? So then it was like, I got that part. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so that gave me the idea of like what kind of soundtrack that should be for that, So I got that far with the album, and then I was like, okay, but what's the album going to be about? I know what the first song's going to be about. And then I was like, oh, her friend convinces her after the performance to try to convince her to go into the music industry. That's what it was about, right? And so the
tragedy. Exactly.
And so when you hear the music, now that I understand like how she would be thinking,
I get it.
Right? Like how it was so much easier to lay out the whole album, because now I understood that what had happened to her, she was a prodigy, and then like what the possibility could be if her friend actually did convince her, how much emotions that would be for her to actually play.
Yeah.
And then when she did play and she got like this crazy applause, like what would happen after? Like what are the feelings that she would go through? Like she would miss her family, people would be proud, and she'd be sad, she'd be battling at the same time, right? So that helped me understand like, oh, so this is what this music needs to be in this part, and does she have a boyfriend? Like what are the community?
That's a whole thing that could come out.
I wrote that. I wrote the entire screenplay for the album so that I could make the music.
You gotta make the movie. No, you made the movie first.
So that's what it is. It's the same thing as what you were talking about. But that's what helps me, because if I see the scene, I understand the music, just like you.
It's almost like dancers. When you watch these dance competitions, right? And then they have the roll call, right? Okay, they come up and okay, I'm gonna dance, and then the song and the dance tell the story. Yeah. And it's like, wow, that was amazing without saying one word.
Exactly, without saying one word.
Crazy deep to me, and that's beautiful. We could talk about this forever.
Yeah, we could.
What's next for the Mad Thinker?
So next is, well, I'm playing tonight, so you should come. Logan Square should come, but what's next is I have a couple of songs that I have a couple remixes. Songs that I've written. We're preparing for next year, next October 8 through 25. Nice. Back to Cuba, Take Everybody. I sit on the board of a nonprofit, so we just had a big event. And actually, you said Austin in one of your other interviews. So in Austin and East Garfield, it's the nonprofit's called Your Passion First, and we inspire young adults to follow their passion.
So we gotta team up.
Exactly. So that's what's next. Really, the music. Over the pandemic, I also leveraged all the kind of human behavior and hospitality experience and got drafted into a consulting firm. Look at that. So helping teams and organizations connect and engage.
People want to seek your help, maybe get mentorship, or just find your music or where you're performing.
Julius TMT on Instagram. That's
the
probably
Mad Thinker.
Yeah. TMT as the Mad Thinker. But that's, or themadthinker.com. You can go there. Or Mikasa Holiday if you like traveling music.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. There you go, guys. Man, Julius, I wish I could talk to you more, which we will.
Yeah, we will.
We will. But let's see if we can connect somehow. You're a non-for-profit.
Yep.
Our non-for-profit, because we're all about inspiring our youth.
I love to
pursue the gifts that God has given them. And I love that. And what you're doing with that, that's amazing. Thank you for that. We got to team up.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate that. Always good to see you.
3 degrees, baby.
Yes.
Forever. Hey, guys, look up Julius, the Mad Thinker. You cannot miss him. His music is hot. I mean, he's been doing this for many years, guys. So until next time, Mike Gutierrez, Mike Talk, real life, real talk. For Julius, the Mad Thinker, I'm going to shake his hand one more time because I need that energy today. Woo! Let's go. Till next time, everybody. Peace out. Love you guys.